Good evening, everyone. Welcome to First Church of Religious Science here in New York City. This is our self-healing class offered every Thursday at 7 p.m. This is a class based upon the work of Louise Hay and her international bestseller, You Can Heal Your Life. We meet every Thursday at 7 every week of the year. On Wednesdays, we have a creative living gathering very similar with the same Zoom links. That's usually facilitated by Jimmy. He also has guest speakers. And we meet Sunday morning at 10:45 for our meditation, followed by our lesson at 11 a.m. So I'm glad you're all here. Welcome to this evening's call, our broadcast. We have a small studio audience, and of course there's usually 150 or more of you here on our Thursday broadcast. So welcome to the center. We're glad you're here. We do get all of your comments, your words of appreciation. It means a lot to us. Everything we do here in the way of these broadcasts are free of charge. There's a growing number of you that are wanting to support the center financially, and we really appreciate it. We have high costs like everyone else, so the donations that we do get are appreciated, and they allow us to do the work we're doing, reaching a larger and larger group of people. If you'd like to support the church that way, in the chat there's all kinds of options, and if you'd like to send a check to the center, there's an address there too. So the most important thing, though, is that you're here, because if you're here, that means you're tuning in to ideas that will remind you of the truth of who you are, remind you about the power that you have, and that will remind you that you can heal your life, you can change your life, and we're always going to be here for you in that way. All of our classes, the same day after we record them, like tonight, will be placed on YouTube and Facebook, so you're able to listen to it a second time. You won't be able to hear all the wonderful commentary, so it's still important to be here live with us when you can. But many of the lessons are really wonderful, and you could listen to them again and again. So they're there for you 24 hours a day. So this evening, I want to talk about the lesson title is What Do You Believe? And you might say, well, you're always talking about that, and I am in a way, because we teach you that whatever it is that you believe in your heart of hearts becomes outpictured eventually in your life. Every thought you think is creating your future. That's a quote directly from Louise Hay. Every thought you think is creating your life, your future. Some of you may not realize that you are so powerful, but you are. And Ernest Holmes would say, there's power for good in the universe, and you can use it. And that's how he would introduce the new thought message in the science of mind, by saying that there is power for good in the universe, and it's within you, and you are using it. Some of you are using it very constructively because you're learning about your power, you're learning how to use it, and you're learning how to demonstrate really wonderful lives. And many of us are using our power in ignorance, meaning we don't know, we forget that we have this power. We forget that life is responding to us. So there's constructive use of it. There's destructive use of it. I mean, if you're thinking negatively all the time, and then your life is going to reflect that tendency of your thought, your thinking. So, what do you believe is our title. We've done many self-healing gatherings where our beliefs, where we question where our beliefs come from, and we will tell you in most cases your beliefs come from your early years, and they're still impacting us years later. Louise herself simply said, what I put out there in the way of my beliefs comes back to me. And we'll get more into that. But before we start, I found a little story for you I'm sure you've heard it before. I haven't heard it in a few years. I wanted to begin with the story that beautifully speaks to this issue and our journey towards self-discovery and self-empowerment. So I want you to imagine a scene in a distant land, it's probably Africa, where majestic elephants stand, tall, yet curiously bound. These magnificent creatures, known for their immense strength and intelligence, are tethered by nothing more than a small rope tied to their front leg. There are no heavy chains to bind them, no cages, just a slender rope and a vast open land around them. And you might wonder, as did a passerby in our story, why these powerful animals don't use their strength to break free. From a young age, these elephants are tied with the same rope. Back then, the rope was strong enough to hold them. As they grew to these majestic, huge beings, they are conditioned to believe that the ropes can still hold them. So they never try to break free, despite their grown size and strength. This story is a poignant reflection of our own lives, and the strings that hold us have been there for years. They don't really have any power, and yet we're held in by them. Often we're held back, not by the physical constraints of the world, but by the ropes of our own beliefs. So this is a subject you hear us talk about often here. We carry with us, or within us, limiting beliefs formed in our past, which continue to dictate our present and our future. Like the elephants, we have the strength. We have power within us. We have the strength to break free. Yet, somehow we're held back by our conditioned beliefs. So today, as we delve into the teachings of Louise Hay, let's remember the elephants. Just remember how powerful and how intelligent they are, how absolutely magnificent they are. But they are held by little ropes. So let us recognize the ropes that bind us. And you know what they are. These are the beliefs that we hold and we've held and we keep holding for whatever reasons we have that hinder our growth. So we're going to do a little bit of an inventory, even as I share this with you. What beliefs come up for you? What ideas do you have about people, places, things, and yourself that might be holding you back? It's always good to ask these questions and mentally jot them down, or if you have a pencil or paper near you, jot it down. What comes up for you? You're like the majestic elephant, so smart, so strong, and yet held back by ideas. Maybe ideas that could be challenged now because it's a different time in your life. Many of the ideas that were passed down to us by parents, grandparents, people who loved us, and they were afraid, and they were looking out for us. And many ideas, we took in, and we haven't really examined them very much. But anything in the way of thought, really, when you get into this teaching, Dr. Bill Tolliver used to say, we are in the business of trading in the lesser ideas for the greater. So these ropes, these beliefs that have held us back, we don't have to be angry about any of it. Just we realize, okay, well, that might have been there for a reason. But as we get into this teaching, we're always wanting to be in new moments where we can consider whether this idea works for us anymore, if it's something we should let go of, so that we can create a new reality for ourselves. I've been doing a lot of studying for these classes for a lot of years, but particularly recently where I've been studying bits and pieces of brain chemistry and ideas of neuroplasticity and the ideas of how when we work with affirmations and when we bring them to a deeper place within us, what we're actually doing is we're creating what we call in metaphysics avenues in mind. So we have these ideas that have been with us for a long time, Sometimes we work at dissolving them, refuting them, neutralizing them, releasing the need for them. We have all kinds of ways that we can teach you to deal with the negatives. But some of my studies lately have been telling me, in addition to any and all of them which are good, affirmative prayer treatment is another way to neutralize the negatives and replace them with the positive thoughts. In this new field of study where we're talking about neuroplasticity and our ability, when we have affirmations that will build up our consciousness, as religious scientists, we always knew that in treatment, it's about when we have the shift in consciousness where we actually feel the truth of our words, then things really start to happen for us. But in this new field, which really amplifies and reinforces what we teach anyway, is when you take these affirmations and you say them over and over again, the research shows that you're established, they're going to a deeper place. It's overriding a lot of old programming. So I used to think affirmations were useful when I was younger, and I thought that affirmative prayer would take you to a deeper place. But now I'm inclined to think that affirmations are really, really important to reinforce and say them until you believe them, and you will then start to see things happen. Louise Hay taught that herself. She was really talking about taking the positive approach, and she was ahead of her time in so many different ways. We have lots of tools we can teach you. Affirmative prayer is probably the best, but you know what? Whatever way works is going to be the best for you. Affirmations can be said throughout your day, and to the extent you say them and you believe them, you're going to start to see things change. There will be a quickening in your life. And you might say, my God, though, I'm 60 or I'm 70 and I've done this all my life. And you might have done it a certain way all your life. And maybe it's not working out so well. And, so here's the thing. You're in a new moment today. This is a new class. Every Thursday, we have a lot of... Louise Hay's material is religious science. And you might say, well, I've heard this before. And I'll say, yeah, so have I. But we want to keep practicing it, practicing your affirmations. I even remind you of Benjamin Franklin with Poor Richard's Almanac. He used to say, assume a virtue if you have it not. And he had it was called the first self-help book, where you would take these affirmations and you would work with them. I think it was for 13 weeks, but he had a system for each of the virtues. And you would assume it, and you would say it, and you would see it until you actually started to demonstrate it. So there's power in our word. Your word is your wand. But we need to bring it to a place within ourselves where we acknowledge it and we believe it. The studies that I've been going over recently would have us believe that 75% of the human population on planet Earth tends to be negative. And that's astonishing to me when I first heard about it, but then the more I think about it, it's not. You look at the world, you look at the way the world is, you look at everything that you see, and I try not to look too much at the news because the news stations don't make money by putting good news stories on. So whatever's on the news, whatever channel you watch, is going to tend to be sensational. But the thing that was, I won't say disturbing, but to realize that the masses tend to be negative. And that means they're negative and they are interacting with people in negative ways, and there's a lot of reacting going on. And if you just think about it, that's not what we do in religious science. That's not what you do in New Thought. New Thought has its origins in the Transcendental movement. And so the whole idea with that is you're developing, say, a more mystical, transcendental approach to life. You're acknowledging reality, the things that are happening, but your preoccupation is to see beyond it and to see the good in it, to see the unfolding good or God in this situation and in every situation. You'll hear me talk endlessly about lines from the Course in Miracles, such as, I could see peace instead of this. See, you are cause to your own experience. You are creator. By that I mean, you're an inlet and outlet of God activity, and you can see things any way you want to. So you have the eyes of God, and you're able to see things from a higher place. Even though the world may be negative, you don't have to be. It begins with you. So we do our work in consciousness, and we do our work in mind, and it always begins with us. So as I was saying, as I've been preparing for my broadcasts in the past month or so, I came upon this astonishing fact, or maybe it's not astonishing to some of you, that the masses tend to be negative. And so if you just look out at the world, it probably makes some kind of sense. We talk about let there be peace on earth and let it begin with us. Well, that's the place where it has to start. Each of us are individualizations of what we call God life. In recent years, people don't like using the word God, so we can say it in lots of ways. Each of us are a part of this divine energy. Each of us are inlets and outlets of this one creative substance. And the thing about it is, it responds to us. Louise would tell us, never, never, never criticize ourselves while learning. So there's a key phrase. Never, never criticize yourself while you're learning. That would suggest that all of us are learning, and all of us are evolving, and all of us are growing. And so let's take it beyond ourselves, and we understand, sometimes we get angry at people, and you've heard me say in other lessons, they're doing the best that they can with the information, the understanding, and the awareness that they have. Sometimes that upsets people. But the thing is, we're not here to be the arbiter of people's behavior. Louise would say everyone's doing the best they can with the information, understanding, and awareness they have. So consciousness is the thing we're talking about. And what I believe is really all about my consciousness. That's today's talk title. What do you believe? Well, what I believe is about my consciousness. And my consciousness and your consciousness is being announced. It's being played out in your life all the time. Every Thursday, I will ask a question at some point in the lesson, what has it been like being you? What has it been like being you lately? Because that's the best barometer. Barometric pressure, right? It's the best way of predicting what your days to come are going to be like. What have your thoughts been like? Have your thoughts been on high? Have you been, as Dr. Bill used to say in his classes, have you been a lifter? Has your consciousness been about positivity? Are you lifting people up? Is your consciousness been about being in connection? When you're in connection, that means you're coming from source. You're coming from an awareness that you are one with the one. So that's our work, really. Our work is to wake up each day and wake up and realize I'm cause to my own experience. And if you can remember that you are one with this one energy and you're creating your own life, then you're going to start paying more attention to what you're thinking, to what you're saying, and where you put your energy, who you spend time with, what you commune with, what you allow yourself to watch on television. Because you don't want to be tied like the majestic elephants to strings. You are meant to soar. You're meant to fly. Each of you, as majestic as the elephants are, with their great intelligence and power, you are more majestic. Your intelligence is far greater, and you are meant to come to planet Earth and to experience great things and to be a part of the forward movement of consciousness on the planet. It begins with us. In this class, we explore how to identify these limiting beliefs and how to replace them with empowering ones. We'll learn how to use the power of our thoughts and affirmations to transform our lives. Just as Louise Hay taught us, let this story be a reminder, the story of the elephant and the strings, right? That our beliefs are powerful, but they are not unchangeable. We have the power to redefine our beliefs, and as we do, we will change our lives. We will heal our lives. So once again, we're on a journey of transformation here in these classes, everyone. And let's begin to break free of the strings or the ropes, the stories, and let them all be stepping stones. Let's move past them so we can move into a world of limitless possibilities. The book, You Can Heal Your Life, has been an international bestseller, as you all know. This evening's class, we're taking a look at what we believe. Sometimes our life seems to be working against us. Have you ever been there? I know I have been. Sometimes we feel like we're tethered like the giant elephants. There's no reason for this, except that we have never really we've not challenged our beliefs. Sometimes life doesn't seem like it's working for you, okay? So we come into this teaching and we want to turn all that around, and you can. If you're new to this teaching, all I can say is stay tuned, tune in as often as you can. What you don't understand, watch again on Facebook or YouTube. I remember taking very similar lessons over 30 years ago, and I would buy a cassette tape for $7, and I would listen to that lesson 2 or 3 times until I absolutely understood as best I could everything that was being offered. In this class and all of our classes, we're talking about the law of attraction. We're talking about the law of cause and effect. Or some of you know it as the law of mind. It's the same law. And for many of us, some of you know this as well as I do. and maybe there is still work for us to do. So we all come together every Thursday to embrace bigger ideas so that we can become free. And I want to quote Louise Hay from one of her last tours: you can do it. You can do it if you want to do it. So this class is good for the newcomer and the old seasoned student. It's good for me to present it because it's good for me to remind myself of the truth of this. So Louise said, what we believe about ourselves becomes the truth for us. I think I've said that several times already. We create everything in our lives, she said, the absolute best of things and the worst of things we create. And you see, that's something that people have a tough time accepting. In religious science, where we say we are cause to our own experience, most of us have many positive things that we believe. And we want to continue to reinforce these positive ideas in our journey through the teachings of Louise Hay. When we do this, we confront a profound truth. Many of our beliefs that are deeply ingrained within us are negative. These beliefs often are unnoticed. They continue to shape our experiences, frequently in ways that cause discomfort and dissatisfaction. Again, we have immense power like the elephants, except we have the power to shape our reality with our thoughts and beliefs. Yet paradoxically, we oftentimes resist change. We cling to the things that are familiar, even when what we cling to doesn't really work for us or doesn't serve us. But here's an undeniable fact of life. Life is constantly moving forward, with or without your permission. It's constantly moving forward. It's evolving. I learned many years ago that if I wanted to resist, I would be in pain. So there was an expression that was offered to me 43 years ago, which was surrender to win. And the surrendering is surrendering the limiting things, the critical thinking, the negative stuff. Surrender all of that and begin to trust the process of life. Because change is not just a possibility. It is an unyielding reality of our life. It's just going to keep on happening. Rejecting reflecting rather on the wisdom. I had to take courses in ancient Greek philosophy. The pre-Socratics, reflecting on the wisdom of, I think it was Heraclitus, we're reminded that you cannot step into the same river twice, meaning you could never be in the same place twice. This ancient wisdom echoes through time, affirming that change is an absolute, unalterable truth of the universe. Every day is truly a new day. Every moment is truly a new moment. Now, we tend to bring a lot of stuff into the new moment, a lot of garbage, a lot of beliefs, a lot of strong opinions. But if you're really working it smart, you're going to release your prejudice, all your preconceived ideas, so you can be whole and present in the now. Be here now. So expect that there's going to be change, and let's welcome each day, knowing that we're the whole bit and knowing that we can see the truth, that we can see peace instead of whatever we're seeing, that we can drop our need to complain. We can begin to see everybody as individualizations of this perfect God life. You can do this if you want to. So we have the power to change, and most of us don't like to think of ourselves as being negative thinkers. Most of us want to think of ourselves as being positive and living the affirmative life, at least people on the call. Each and every one of us who are here on this call are spiritual beings, and we're here in life to learn. We're here to learn to grow, and we're here to evolve, and we're here to express ourselves. It's safe to say that all of us have work to do. So as we come together and we untie ourselves from the strings and the beliefs that hold us back from expressing ourselves at our highest and best, our journey is not about judging ourselves in any way for our negative beliefs. Louise would say, never, never, never criticize yourself. We step up and we recognize that everything that we've done that's been a mistake has been a stepping stone to bring us to greater realization. So you know the old sayings, just because you've made mistakes doesn't mean you are a mistake. All of us make mistakes while we're learning. In this class, we will learn how to embrace change and not resist it. Change is a totally inevitable process that we can harness for our growth and our betterment. We have to learn to align with change and align with the flow of life. And when we open ourselves up to new possibilities and new ways of thinking, things will go more smoothly. Change is absolutely essential. Each of us in our own way have to find the way to welcome change. Because if we're trying to live in yesterday, we're going to be preventing ourselves from being fully present in this moment today. We're in the business, as was taught to me 30 years ago, of trading in the lesser ideas for the greater. Every day and every week, there's going to be new situations, and you're going to have to consider your beliefs, and you're going to have to consider your old thoughts. And we are in the business of trading in lesser ideas for greater. The whole planet, by the way, is faced with this same challenge. Everyone needs to do their part because we're all in this together. You cannot change the world. You can't change the way people think. It has to begin with ourselves. We need to shed old, limiting thoughts, negative thoughts. Ernest Holmes would say, we want to live in a world. In the definition, in the glossary, he'll talk about affirmative prayer, and he'll say it's the time, the art, the method of ridding that negativity, ridding that negation from you. And Louise would be saying the same thing in many ways. So we're in the business of trading in those ideas, shedding them, the limiting ideas and beliefs, which are like the strings that are tied to the elephant's leg. Most of the world doesn't realize that they are creators of their own experience. That's one of the great gifts of coming into this teaching in New Thought, in the New Thought, different New Thought movement groups, Unity, Science of Mind, Religious Science, all of them. We're in the business of trading in lesser ideas for greater. And most of us who are actively involved in this teaching come to understand that we are creator creators of our own experience. So it has to begin with us. And as some of us have been remembering the old song that we used to sing here, let it begin with me. Let it begin with me and you and all of us on this broadcast. Let's do this with a certain amount of excitement and openness to what lies ahead. We're all on this continuous journey of growth and self-discovery. Louise Hay used to say, we're 100% responsible for what happens to us. And I can remember very well an argument with one of my sisters, probably 25 or 30 years ago. And this was the discussion. She loved Louise Hay. She loved the affirmations, but she absolutely did not like the idea of being responsible for the things that had happened in her life. And I've known other people who've struggled with that statement too. And I remember from 12-step programs, they say acceptance is the answer to all of my challenges today, and absolutely nothing happens in the universe's world by mistake. Things happen not to us so much as for us. I also remember from 12-step programs where they said, regarding addictions and things, it's the disease of denial. It's very easy to talk about the ills of the world and see them in others, and somehow we just don't see them in ourselves. Because many of us don't want to deal with unpleasant things, and we don't want to deal with unpleasant aspects of ourselves. We don't want to see that we have really been our own worst enemy sometimes. So, and then even worse, some of us have a tendency to project the unhealed things we have about ourselves into the world. You've heard the old adage, I'm sure, if you're pointing a finger at someone, you have 3 fingers pointing right back at yourself. Or another phrase often used in science of mind classes, if you spot it, you've got it. So if we see the flaws, if you're a fault finder, you're seeing the flaws in other people, you're forgetting that, we're here to do something different. We're here to be the lifters. We understand that everyone is evolving. We understand that we've made mistakes and we're evolving. So we want to let all of that go. Louise would say, let it all go. Stop pointing the fingers. I can remember when I was in my 20s and I could go into some of these therapeutic groups, all filled with knowledge from school, and I could tell you very quickly what was wrong with most people. And, could probably diagnose them, and of course, I didn't think there was anything wrong with myself. But back in those days, I was much more concerned with what was wrong with other people and what was wrong in the world. And I wasn't yet practicing the teaching very well. I was just learning about the teaching, learning about Louise Hay, learning about that we project these areas onto others, these unhealed areas. So I was just learning about loving myself. I was smart enough to see what was wrong, but and what was missing in the world and in people, places and things. But I wasn't yet very good at seeing what was missing or how I was disconnected myself. There was an author, Jacqueline Small, who I remember, who said, I believe she said, all our battered places need to come to light. Meaning all these places of hiding where we don't feel good enough or adequate, and we cover it up and we dress it up and we kind of protect it. And then we have a tendency to project those problem areas upon others. So that author was saying all these battered places need to come to light. You need to feel your feelings around them. You need to neutralize the negatives and replace these thoughts with life-giving and much more positive thoughts. So she was speaking of underlying thought patterns, the same way Louise Hay was talking about. So like the mighty elephant, or if you're like I used to be, I'm going to suggest if you have anything negative going on within you, and you're talking about negativity with other people or you're judging other people, Dr. Bill, probably my best teacher, would say, if you're doing a lot of talking about other people, he would say it's highly suspect, meaning you most likely there's some things within you that need to be looked at rather than talking about other people. One thing that's humorous to me or funny is the longer that I stay involved with this teaching, and the more that I learn to have self-respect and to love myself and appreciate myself, there's really less and less concern. You don't talk about people so much, and you don't have as many people problems. You don't get so upset with what people are doing. Agatha, one of our practitioners, who I love, would always say to me, and I won't tell you her age, but she's up there, she'd say, I'm working on myself. It's a full-time job. And really that's the way it would, ideally that's what it is for all of us. We're all working on ourselves, and we're trusting in the process of life. Because we want to come to a place where we're accepting people as they are and where they are. We know that everyone's a spiritual being, and each person you come across is in the right place at the right time. Even if what they're doing isn't to your liking, they are where they are. They're unfolding, they're evolving, as are you, and I am too. So part of our commitment here at the center is to identify the patterns of thought within us that work against us. So tonight's title, what do we believe? So that's what we do here. We identify the patterns, we change the lesser for the greater. It's going to be difficult for anybody to change any limiting belief unless at first they, fess up or admit that they have it. So if you go into the Science of Mind textbook, for example, and you go to the glossary, under the word treatment, otherwise known as affirmative prayer, you'll see that Ernest Holmes will say of treatment or affirmative prayer, it's the time, it's the art, it's the method of ridding this negativity from your consciousness. And we all have it to varying degrees. The time, the art, the method. So treatment could take a minute, it could take a month. But it's the time, the art, the method of ridding this from you. Some of us have some serious work to do. We don't have to do it all overnight. Louise would say it's like cleaning a house. You just begin wherever you are. You notice the negatives. You notice what comes up for you, what causes a reaction within you. Because this is going to be an issue about you much more than the other person. Because when you really get good with yourself, you're not going to react to what people are doing. What they say and what they do are none of your business. That's the name of Terry Cole Whitaker's book. So we get good with the world. We realize that we are points of awareness within the mind of God, and all is well. So as we work with affirmative prayer, we work with affirmations and building up our consciousness, we're clearing away fear, doubt, insecurity, negativity. And then we get to see life as it really is. We get to see the beauty, the joy. We know that there's one energy and how spectacular it is. There's one power, there's one love. And we live in it, we dwell in it, we move in it. And we become somewhat unflappable. Even the world might seem to be going to hell, but you get to live in a world, where all is well and everything is perfectly unfolding. So this is a beautiful thing that you can have in this teaching. You can learn to live in a new moment. You can realize you can go into the first step of affirmative prayer. You can recognize that there's one power, one presence. And that power, that presence is in you, operating through you. It's responding to you all the time. It doesn't miss a single thought. So we know together that this power is in every human being on the planet, that nobody's left out of it, and that it is evolving. This consciousness is evolving within ourselves and within everyone on earth. And the great news is the people who practice this teaching are aware of it. We're becoming aware of it. This universal power exists in everyone. And for those of us on the call, we know deep at the center of our being is this power. And we're grateful to have this knowledge. And we don't need to look for it anywhere else. So as you join in these calls, you're going to start to learn about the laws of life and the law of attraction, or what we call the law of mind. Louise would say that what you give out comes back to you. So you can do your own self-assessment on some of this. I have a little quiz of sorts for you. We're winding things down here, but let's see how you do on the quiz. And No one ever flunks at my quizzes. These quizzes are just really for you to check out where you are with some of these things. Let's see what comes up for you. Because whatever comes up for you is really a gift to you. It might show you what you believe, which is today's lesson. Just consider these different ideas and notice. And you could decide whether you do this or you don't do this anymore, or where you're at with it, or if maybe you've moved on. For example, this is from one of the books associated with Louise's work. As you think about life, some of you on this call might think life is wonderful. It's really great, right? Are you one of them? Or some of you on the call might be thinking life is difficult. From another generation, my grandmother would have said life is a vale of tears. Are you one of them? Some of you might, as you think about life, go to situations that are happening in the world, in China or in Israel or Palestine, or you might go to the Ukraine, and some of you might be going towards what's unfair and unjust. You might be thinking about the problems in the world, the problem at the border. You know, your mind can go everywhere and anywhere as it does. You might go towards health challenges that you're having or someone's having, the people you care about. You might be caught up in what you don't like about your treatment options, or what you think is good or right or wrong or fair. And some of you might think your life is perfectly unfolding, as most people do in New Thought. Most people who are involved in metaphysical thinking would believe all is well. Some of you might think differently, so it's a huge kaleidoscope of different thoughts. There might be some of you on the call who think life is great, or might think life is not so good, it's pointless, hopeless, and for others, even worse, it's not worth living. You see, there's such a broad spectrum of beliefs. And the thing about the way this works is you get to be right according to what you believe. So as we come into this teaching, which has been called the science of healthy mindedness, we tell you it's entirely up to you. What the mind can see and believe, it will achieve. It's entirely up to us. Every thought we think is contributing to creating your future. I've had 3 or 4 really outstanding teachers, metaphysical teachers, and I've had a lot of other good teachers in various classes. And probably the most outrageous was Dr. Bill T., who used to, he was teaching us ministerial classes, and he would say to his students, "Don't die dumb." Of course, he was kidding around with us, but what he was trying to have us understand, if you keep buying into the negativity, if you keep going there, and you keep hanging on to old ideas, and you keep just the negativity going without challenging any of it, life is going to be pretty awful for you. I've had one of my family members who does it that way, and my goodness, I can promise you, you would not want to be living her life. I'm really grateful that my mother always used to say to all of us, "It's entirely up to you." She would never get in the middle of these skirmishes, and she would say, "It's entirely up to you." And both of them were very wise, but that one line has been informing me throughout my life for decades. Today's talk, what do you believe? Well, once again, I'll repeat my mother's line to you. It's entirely up to you. How you approach life with your beliefs, you can be tethered like the great, majestic, intelligent elephants by these strings of old ideas and old beliefs, or you can unbind yourself. You can live the positive approach that Louise spoke of. You can go to Ernest Holmes in the textbook where he said it's the time, the art, the method of ridding this negativity and this negation from within you. Because as you do, you will be able to experience the glory, the beauty, the love of life, the power of life that's at your disposal. Life is going to give you everything according to your belief. So what do you believe? I remember one of my grandparents who was a constant worrier, and I loved her completely to death, but I'm going to tell you something. I wish she hadn't worried so much, because I know she would have been much happier. Louise Hay tells us to love ourselves accept ourselves, and approve of ourselves no matter what. Just stop the negative chatter wherever you find yourself doing it. Stop, stop, stop. Stop in the name of love, because what you believe and say to yourself is creating your life. There's a book I liked when I was younger, which was entitled Life is Not Meant to Be a Struggle. At the time I read it, I was struggling. Life seemed hard. I wasn't seeing everything as a stepping stone at the time. I wasn't realizing that everything I worked through and went through brought me to a higher place, a place of understanding. I'm not a finished product yet. There's much for me to learn, and I know it. And that would be true for all of us. So take that to heart. Know that you're going to great places. Know that you're in the perfect place, perfect time. Know that this class is here to support you to become the very best version of yourself. In this class, you're going to learn some thoughts that I'm going to pass down from Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was going to say, you are meant to be a thinker. You're here to express yourself and to live the greatest life possible. I do have a self-quiz here for you. I think I'm going to save it to a week or two from now. I think I've highlighted enough of the important points. What you believe becomes true for you. I always, at the ending point of this class, toss out that question. What has it been like being you this week? What's the conversation you've been having with the most important person in the world, which is you? Just notice. Never, never, never criticize yourself. Begin wherever you are. If you're being critical of yourself or others, realize that you're not, it's not going to work out well for you. So stop. Make a game out of it. Don't do this in any way to hurt yourself or to criticize yourself. Just begin the process of noticing and then releasing. Changing the lesser idea that you have for the greater. Remember, those of us who are involved in this teaching are committed to healing the world, but we know that it begins with us. So let it begin with us. Let's start by loving, accepting, and approving of ourselves exactly as we are. Let's have the consciousness to extend that love to the people we encounter and know that everybody's evolving and in the perfect right place. And so ends this evening's lesson. I look forward to hearing your comments and all your wonderful ideas, and we appreciate all the support we're getting from you. And we'll see you in just a moment. Thank you.